So hello, well today I'd like to take a look at this. The owner's manual for another car that would belong to my dad, in actual fact, in our family during the 1970s. It was called a Hillman Hunter. Roots was I think the company that owned Chrysler, or whoever took over from Hillman. There was a lot of takeovers back in the day in Britain. British Leyland took over Austin Morris, all those sorts of things. They became British Leyland, and I think Roots were another of these big conglomerates, although don't quote me on that. I make a lot of stuff up in my head, I'll tell you now. But this car was awesome. My dad's one, I'll have to leave a sort of picture of it separately in the description box, because there isn't one. In actual fact, I noticed of this car, but I noticed this one. Well, this isn't my dad's car, I must say. This is a book I bought. But this one's from 1967, delivered from Stolls in Exeter. I don't know if you can make that out. That's very faint. It's almost, the sun has almost bleached it out. But yeah, my dad's one had the 1750 Hull Bay engine, which was the, or was it a 1725? I'm looking up there, 24. I think it was 1750. My dad had the bit bigger one than that, posher one, and it was really fast. I remember my dad taking me up the road in it when I was a kid. I'd probably be like in sort of my early, I'd be in single digit age numbers, but I remember being very, very impressed by the speed it could do. And that's a fact. And I remember being very impressed by the dashboard, because it was the first time I'd seen a dashboard that didn't have a round speedometer. Because most of the cars in the old days had round ones, and this was suddenly a lozenge. And I remember these air vents for some reason as well. Bizarre, but it's funny what you remember from your childhood. And well, that would be the left-hand drive version of it, of course, but. Oh yeah, I remember that as well. The courtesy lamp. It was like the kind of the chandelier in the Titanic. It had that effect anyway. When the light was on, it was very sparkly, and I remember thinking, "Ooh, really nice." My dad had trouble with that. The wiper washer bag. It looks like a colostomy bag, doesn't it? Now, I'm sorry, I don't know where I get these things from, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good, and I guess neither is a colostomy. But anyway, jokes aside, yeah, I remember this gearbox stick shift that he had. Yep, I remember it all. And look at that. No draft ventilating opening quarter. Well, what are they called? I forget now the exact name, but they were like little windows you could open to get a bit of air in. Obviously, why bother? You just crack the window, don't you? But in those days, they thought it was all cool to have like these funny little no draft ventilators, which is not how I remember them. But if anybody can remember the correct name, put it in the description below, because otherwise I won't sleep tonight. And yeah, so there you go. Bonnet catch, releases, things like that. That was my job. My dad used to crack the bonnet. I used to release it. Of course, I could never do it, and he always used to have to help me. And he'd always say, good job, son." I used to think, what are you on about, Dad? I was just screwed up massively. But he was very positive, my old man. That's a fact. Yeah, there you go. It's getting a bit printy, isn't it? There's not much happening with picture. Cooling systems, tyre pressures, things like that. Things you had to care about in the old days. Nowadays, you pump your tyres up once a year, don't you? And that's that. You leave them. Back in the day, no, you had to constantly check things that were for safety, because they were just oozing and leaking and. Well, they were on my dad's car anyway, but. Yeah, I remember that. Back lamp cluster for the rear headlight, rear tail light, the tail lights, I should say, the rear lights we say in England. Tail lamps in the US. But yeah. No, the tail lamp that's there. Sorry, what's that? It's some horrible horrible piece of sheet that's covering a nasty IKEA piece of furniture. I don't know what I'm doing. Half the time I'm gone. Look at that. Batteries that you had to fill with anodized water. I think it's called anodized water. Distilled water, maybe. One of them. But yeah. And you can be quiet as well. Look at you. Look at that. Snoozing away. Jimmy! Bless you, mate. Bless your little snoozy head. So there you go. Sump plugs. I remember them. Hang on. Look at that. The adjustment of the valve and rocker clearances. That is something I've done myself. Awesome. Look at that. There's all the gear and information. You see, you'd have trouble now, wouldn't you, you guys and girls? Imagine having to do all this for yourself. You see? Imagine that you had to do this. You wouldn't want to roll your sleeves up, would you? You get into your cars nowadays, you start the engine, when it goes wrong you go, bloody car, it doesn't work. But in my dad's day, he did all this himself. Yep. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Sump drain plug to take out the oil. You see, why would they give you this? My dad used to say, best do the job yourself. Don't give the car to a mechanic because they'll mess it all up. He probably didn't say mess it, actually. He was probably had stronger words. But they'll fuss it all up. Let's put it that way. And ultimately, do it yourself. If a job's worth doing, do it yourself. So there's your servicing. You see, you get it. No, we didn't have auto. That would have been cool. That would have been cool. So I'll whiz on a bit and show you the Roots Proficiency Certificate. There's the wiring diagram. If anybody owns a Hillman Hunter and wants to rewire the bugger. I'm joking. But there you go. There's your servicing. Look. There's your servicing. So you have different types of services. That's the labour time. So service A took 2.5 hours. Crikey. Service D took 3 hours 45 minutes. With cigarette breaks, I've no doubt. And a coffee break and a long lunch at the British Leyland canteen. You can come and eat at our canteen and we'll make that service D 6 hours long. No, I'm joking, but there you go. All the different 10,000, well, there's kilometres there, 10,000 miles. They're all blank, look. So it's cool because basically this manual hasn't been used. So I was happy to get this. I must say, I can't remember when I bought it now. I think probably about 10 years ago, something like that. I went through a phase of kind of buying manuals of cars that my family had owned or I had owned, and so there you go. So what's the life expectancy? So they reckon it can still get to a 90,000 miles, 95. But they cut out after that, do they? Nope, they reckon it can get to 100,000, you see. That was a probable truth in those days. Blikey hikey, my car has done double that, and it's still going. And so it just goes to show the differences in technological variation. That back in the day, they thought that a car would last probably about 100,000 before it would be scrapped. Mine's done close to 200. and I've been round the block myself, trust me. Anyway, thanks for watching, and all the very best wishes as always, and I'll leave you with a lovely little face over there. Look, hello mate, you alright? Yeah, good. Cheers.